All right. Well, since crypto isn't doing very much here, I think we'll talk about some different stuff for a while. I'll get onto charts later on. So today's lecture is going to be a little bit about how to spot opportunity. And some of you know that I like to buy movie props every once in a while. I'm not exactly the largest collector. I'm an opportunistic collector. Let's just call it that. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I've been up to and what I'm about to be up to. So going to brag a little bit because what's the point of owning this stuff if you can't talk about it? I own the Scorpion King's sword and shield from the Mummy Returns. I own the bracelets that Rachel McLeish and the other gal, when they were doing the sword fight, when they were fighting in front of the king in that deal. I have the armbands that they were wearing during that. I didn't get a chance to get the swords. I missed that. It was about a day late and a dollar short on that one. I own the boxing gloves from Million Dollar Baby. Now that's one that kind of keys into what we're going to talk about today. Million Dollar Baby, if you don't know that story, was basically about a woman boxer. Now this is it's a very widely known movie, but most people don't understand the significance of why you would buy something like this. Do I need boxing gloves? No, I don't give a crap about boxing, but I do understand the people involved. Who was involved? Clint Eastwood. This was his first major directorial debut. This was a key movie for him. He'd always been known as an actor, but this was his big coming out party as a director. And since then, he's produced a number of very quality, memorable movies. So this is, his freshman effort, if you will. And of course, it had Hilary Swank, and it won, I believe, Best Picture or Oscar. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. Morgan Freeman was in this. It's pretty much a trifecta of good things. And so I have the boxing gloves signed by all three people: Hilary Swank, Morgan Freeman, and Clint Eastwood. So cool, cool, cool. And so here's how you opportunity invest. And we're going to talk about this. I'm going to show you some things that will blow your damn mind. And so where you get these things is you get them online. Now you can Premier Props is what you're looking at. This is their web page. It looks like something out of the early 90s. They're not known for their website. They're known for their stuff. But these guys, what they do is they are on the ends, and they have been since, well, I don't know, since before Chase was born. I've been doing business with them for about 30 years. And they have some insiders that go in and buy all the movie props up, and then they price them obscenely high. And then if you buy them, maybe you might make money, and probably you won't. One thing I generally stay away from is I stay away from clothes unless it's an extremely iconic movie. Like I had a chance to buy the the outfits from Pulp Fiction, and should have done it, but I just too rich for my blood at the time. Would have been a no-brainer. And let me give you some nosebleed prices. The prices were $50,000. This was the price with Samuel Jackson and Vincent, and it would have just been absolutely money in the bank. And I monitor these shoulda, coulda, woulda deals, and it's since 5x in price. Again, anything that Quentin Tarantino's involved with, if you could have got a sword from Kill Bill, you would have just, you think crypto goes up in price. So there's that. Well, I got one I'm going to show you here that's absolutely going to set you back in your seat. You wouldn't even believe this is even available, let alone at the price, and I'm probably going to buy it. God help me. So, but we'll get to it here in just a minute. So I own the boxing gloves. One of my favorite things, because I'm a musician and I did this, and it's not really some of these movies, they're extremely iconic. And I'll get to the Clint Eastwood thing here in a minute. They're extremely iconic. And to own a combination of an iconic movie, a prop used front and center in an iconic movie, and tied to a major actor. That's the trifecta of perfect investing. Now, when that major actor dies, and I also buy comic books too from the Silver Age, from when I was a kid. I've always had an eye for value. Toys from the 1980s. I like what I like, but it just turns out I got exquisite taste when it comes to this stuff, because this stuff is worth excessive amounts of money now in my older years. But I have the guitar from Back to the Future. that Michael J. Fox plays Johnny B. Good at. I actually own that guitar and I do play it in my band. And it is probably one of my most near and dear things. I've been offered some pretty outrageous amounts of money for it. I paid some pretty good money for it. But here's the thing, Michael J. Fox is going to die at some point. And when he dies, everybody is going to be rolling out and hungry for anything. You know how it goes. Anytime a major actor or an icon dies, people are very, very nostalgic for that. And this ties into what I'm going to show you here in today's lecture, in today's talk. You can do this. Now, don't think the prices that I'm showing you, don't think that you have to have these massive prices that I'm paying for some of these props. I mean, you can get props for a couple $100 that do go up in value and whatnot. You just have to know how to do it. But that's a talk for another time. So what I've noticed, going back in the discussion here, so we had a talk last night in the 21 group. We did viewings on what's the world going to look like? Well, these institutions are going to start falling apart. Now, you no doubt know that the Hollywood movie machine has ground to a halt because there's a writer's strike. You have seen the last of Hollywood as you know it, as a kid or as a young man or young woman. You've just seen the end of it. There will be no more. You're seeing the last throes and the last breaths of the big machine, movie machine that has been Hollywood for decades and decades. It just will not be anymore. Much like news is, YouTube is to news. Independent movies will be to Hollywood. Hollywood as an institution, there'll be some bigger budget stuff from people that still have, like actors that have their own money. Will come out, they know how to make a quality movie or whatever. But the entire movies will not go away. But movies, as you know, them rolled out by Universal and Disney, amen to that. Well, they're just going away. They're just going away. And so this rolls into something that I have personally noticed, and I noticed a few of you have kind of said it without necessarily saying it. Have you noticed recently on Twitter and on YouTube and on other social medias the nostalgia for the 1980s that has just seemed to kind of spike just recently? The 80s just does not seem to go away. There was something very, very special about the 80s. If you grew up in the 80s and if you were part of the 80s, I don't have to tell you, your life was amazing. No matter what your income was, no matter whatever, the 1980s was nothing but optimism and feel good. Everything was new, everything was coming out, electronics were new, video games were good. The 1980s were a fantastic time in America. And indeed, any part of the first world countries. So, related to that, Michael J. Fox and my guitar is part of that. But this is the icon of icons. What you're literally looking at is you're literally looking at the gloved one's only glove. And it is actually for sale. It was found in a trunk, or it was found in a trunk in a truck. I know a little bit more about this because I called and I talked to it. Asking price $40,000. Now, Michael Jackson's been dead for a very long time, but the 1980s just keeps coming back, keeps coming back, keeps coming back. Let me explain how this goes up in value. It would be impossible for this not to have value. If you grew up in the 1980s, you know what this glove is. You've seen it. Pretty much every person on the planet that has access to a television has seen this glove. This glove, I dare say, is probably more famous than some presidents. I would dare say it's probably more famous than a lot of things. And $40,000 is a goddamn bargain. And I'm about ready to go in my pocket and buy this thing. And I know that sounds very highfalutin because it is. It's. I'm thinking about it. I'm hovering over the buy button. But when I get done making this video, I very well might be the proud owner of this. I'm going to probably wire the money and own this because I don't really necessarily care about Michael Jackson, the politics, or the accusations or whatever. I know what this means. Now, he's been dead a certain number of years. Every 25th anniversary, 30th anniversary, 50th. Think about Elvis Presley. I mean, for God's sake, the man's been dead since the 70s, and he just won't go. Michael Jackson is so much bigger than Elvis Presley, and people still pay outrageous amounts. I just saw a guy on YouTube that bought Elvis Presley's old piece of crap jet, and he's restoring it. A jet. And, I mean, if they'll do that, so there will always be millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires in the future and whatever. And one of them might have grown up just being the self-proclaimed biggest investor ever, or the biggest fan ever of Michael Jackson. If I roll up, or if I croak and Chase just happens to put this thing up for auction or whatever, and say, hey, I've got Michael Jackson's thing, and here's the thing: you can't just own this glove. You got to own with what's called provenance. You have to have a paper trail from origin to your hot little hands. And if you've got that, and I do for all the things that I own, if you've got that, then what you're looking, and another thing, here's another one. I got ahead of myself a little bit. If you've got that paper trail, you can prove provenance that it's the real deal, and you didn't just make your own version of it or whatever and trying to pass it off as a real thing. You've got something that is equal to, I dare say equal to, if you bought the right thing, anything in gold or silver or crypto. I value this right now. My personal experience with this sort of thing, which goes back 30 some years. My personal experience on this, I would be very reticent to think that this is, I think it's very low in price. I think in the proper market, this could fetch easily $100,000 or more, probably closer to a quarter million. I find this rather funny that this is, again, here's the other thing too. If you're looking at the glove, how many sets of gloves were there? This is it. This is it. There is only one. And so, like, here's a good example. Like, I have Cindy Lou Who's shoes from The Grinch. I've talked about that several times. So The Grinch with Jim Carrey. Why would I buy that? I own quite a few props from the Grinch with Jim Carrey. Again, another trifecta of perfection. Hot actor, Jim Carrey. Hot story, well known, near and dear to everybody. Everybody who's grown up in America has seen either the Chuck Jones animated version or later on the Jim Carrey version. The Grinch is a Dr. Seuss icon. Can't lose. Can't lose. So you've got a hot actor in a popular movie or whatever. Now, what happens? Jim Carrey's getting up there in age. And by the way, these shoes, Cindy Lou Who's that actress's name is Taylor Momfit, I believe, Momfit or Moffat. Um, these basically, these are just little black shoes with fuzzy stuff, and you can see them on camera if you go back and you look at the live action version of the Grinch. And then the major thing is this has to be on camera, and these are on camera, I believe, something like 6 times. But the best version of that, where you see them front and center, is there's a scene where she's in the post office and she falls into a whole bunch of boxes, and she goes head first in, so her feet are sticking out. You can see those little black fuzzy shoes. So all the Who's have fuzzy shoes, but she's got these particular ones that stand out. So I had a chance, and I bought them on eBay of all things. And then I don't remember what I paid for them. I believe I paid like something like $1,000 for them or something like that back in the day. I've been offered quite a bit more for that, but I'm holding out. Now, again, this is not a Jim Carrey prop necessarily, but Jim Carrey represents the live action version of the Grinch. So every year, and here's another thing with the Grinch, every year they roll that out again. It's a Christmas classic. It's just like the animated Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all these things that roll out again and again and again and have pretty much your entire life since the early 1960s. It just will not go away. Much like Michael Jackson's glove, much like that. Now, um, this is I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you and I'm staring at this and I'm gonna do it. I am gonna buy this. It's just something that's just too cool not to. I mean, you want to talk about a good story? I got a good story. Oh, Michael Jackson's glove. So let's step back here. I want to show you a couple of other things. Here's another one. If you guys have ever seen Django, this is the gun that Dr. King Schultz uses to kill Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't want to do that. This is the gun that pops out of his sleeve in the pivotal moment. Now, we're talking about an Academy Award winner here. We're talking about a major movie. We're talking about a hot director, hot actor. Is this worth it? Probably not. I would say this is probably about a $3,500 investment right here. It is a pretty cool thing to have. This is really more of a conversation piece. Because it's not a pivotal point in the movie. Let's just say that. Much like my guitar, which is a very pivotal point in the movie. It's a usable prop, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if it were something like I said, I don't buy clothes, but just one thing comes to mind. If these glasses or that hat ever went up for sale, buddy, I would have my wallet out so fast, so fast. Or, for example, if the broken glass, and trust me, they kept it. If the broken glass that Leonardo DiCaprio smashed on the thing that he actually legitimately cut his hand on, they kept that glass. Somebody owns that. I would be all over that without even thinking because there's a story and a legend tied to that. But that's predominantly what this business is all about. But I'd encourage you to go to this premierprops.com and look around. It's a very cool site. So um, it'll probably take me a while to probably execute this sale on Jackson's glove because I have to do some background checks. You don't ever lay that kind of money out, or even a tenth of that amount of money out without having some very high level discussions and getting provenance and probably even flying in to look at it firsthand. You don't send that kind of money sight unseen, even to a company you've dealt with for 30 some years, because shenanigans happen. People get desperate. But right now, Hollywood is failing, and so as Hollywood fails, people are going to get very nostalgic for the old Hollywood. Despite all its evil, despite all whatever, the glory days of Hollywood are now behind us, and so little bits and pieces and trinkets and stuff, the movies will survive. They will be viewable and watchable to our grandkids, and so these things like Cindy Lou Who's shoes, like the guitar from Back to the Future, like the gun from this, like Michael Jackson's glove from music videos, which is a slightly different but actually better thing. These are all going to be bits and pieces of history. These move from being historic or from movie props to legitimate historical props. And so I want you to spend a little time on this. I know some of you guys don't have the ability to do this, but some of you got a few extra bucks or whatever. If you find something that catches your eye and you want to ask me, do you think that this is, obviously I'm not going to be your advisor, but I'll give you my opinion. If you find something that looks interesting on here and you wonder, I'll have a conversation with you, in the off-topic room because I think this is a really, really good, just weird thing. But just understand that you don't buy this on Monday and sell it on Tuesday. This is a long-term investment, and you have to buy it right. The way that I look at this is I go, if I bought this and it ended up being worthless or ended up being of not the value that I thought, would I feel good paying the price? Like for example, the guitar. I feel great. I love that guitar. I play the crap out of it. It's an Epiphone. It's one of my favorite. I've got about 16 guitars here at the house, and it's one of my favorites. And most people, when I'm playing, don't even realize what they're looking at unless somebody says something. But it's a gorgeous guitar. Epiphone makes a good product. Uh, for the price I paid, they better. But would I feel good having a derringer? And I don't believe this probably even works. Would I feel good having? And in fact, I know it doesn't. Would I feel good spending $10,000 on this if nobody else thought that this was a great gun or whatever? No, I would not. Michael Jackson's glove. Again, money in the bank. There's just too many people on this planet who know who Michael Jackson is. Look at the fervor that goes into him. Look at the way people still celebrate his death, the way that they celebrate Elvis Presley's death. Everything, everything, everything attached to Michael Jackson is the icon of the 80s, and it's impossible not to make money on that. And to find one person with too much money, I can find a Saudi prince that happens to like Michael Jackson. In fact, I'm one of those Kevin Bacon, 7 steps or whatever it is to a Saudi prince. I know people who know people who know people that could get that glove in front of the right person that would pay a hell of a lot more. And I know about this glove, and he probably doesn't, or he probably would buy it. So the thing is buying this sort of stuff. You have to kind of know how to get rid of it. You could put it back on eBay, but whether or not we'll have an eBay in the future remains to be seen. But this is an investment. It's a business. You got to learn it. You can't always win when you step to bat. But thus far, I'm doing pretty good at this. Most of the stuff I'm just holding for long term. And I buy it because I enjoy it. My Cindy Lou Who's shoes are sitting up in Chase's den. They're on a wall. I've got my all my other props are sitting along the same thing there. They're just there to just to look at right now. But if somebody tied to one of those movies turns up dying, let me give you a good example here, and I'll get off this topic and end this. But let's say, for example, um, this gentleman was in the hospital with COVID. Now, let's assume that I would have bought this hat. This is his movie, hot actor, hot director, whatever. He was in the hospital with COVID, and there was rumors that he was about ready to die. Now, can you imagine if I would have owned his hat or his glasses, and he dies? There would have been, oh my God, he died, he died, he died. That's such a Django was such a good movie. And I pop and go, hey, I got his hat from that movie. I got his hat and glasses from that movie. Somebody's going to throw down some bucks to buy that because the emotional uh, fervor at that moment would be at its zenith. And so that's when you sell. So when Clint Eastwood dies, and he's in his upper 80s at this point in time, if I remember correctly, when he dies, that's going to be time to unload that boxing glove. Morgan Freeman, I have two chances at that one. When Morgan Freeman dies, I believe it would be better with Clint Eastwood. But when Morgan Freeman dies, if he'll ever die, the guy just never ages. But if something happened with him, again, I would have a second shot at it. But boxing gloves probably going to be the first thing that I sell. That'll probably happen here pretty soon. So anyway, we'll get on to crypto here. I just wanted to kind of share my day with you and just kind of give you something new to consider while you're waiting around looking for something.